Hello, today we're going to talk about old versions of Spring value tag. So how it's being used. So currently we have been using value attribute. So in the old version of Spring we had a value tag. So we're going to discuss about it. Apart from that, we are going to talk about one more way of using getBean, and the third one is we're going to talk about the new container, other container, application context. This is also from the Bean factory, um, and it's an interface. And we're going to talk about it, how to create the container object, and all those stuff. Okay. So first of all, let's jump onto it. Let me open my Eclipse and Spring Code. This is my project. If you open, this is my package, source main Java package. Default I have app.java. I don't have anything. Okay, and in the resources, the class path I have placed log4j to XML, and this is the manual project, and the GRE what I've selected is 1.8, and if you go to pom.xml, you can see I have already selected Spring Framework. But if you look at the versions in the projects, we'll be not directly mentioning the project, directly mentioning the version. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to give an we're going to define it as a property. We are going to go to property and to give and we're going to give a user defined name. Let me say Spring version. Let me create this tag and place this value, cut from here, and I'm going to place it here. So I'm going to make use of this tag. I'm going to give it as an attribute. From brackets inside it, I'm going to give as a property value. Okay, so this is how we are going to do for all the dependencies. For now, as we don't have time, I'm going to leave it. But in the real time, in the projects, definitely we need to mention all our versions as a property. So for just for the convenience, I just used the Spring. I have used the property file for the only the Spring framework. Let me save it. Control A, Control Shift F. Now I don't have any kind of errors. And let me close it. We'll say save and right click on it. I'll say run as maven update project. Okay. At the bottom you can see it's the man is getting updated with all the downloading the all the dependent jars. Now I'm going to create important file of the Spring framework, that is the Spring Bean configuration file. I'm going to go to the source path, right click on it, say new, other, Spring Bean configuration file. I'm going to name it as Spring. Okay, save and finish. So we can say this is the configuration file. By default, it's going to select Bean namespace. Okay, let me create a Bean new class. As I've already said, Bean is nothing but any Java class can be called as a Bean. Let me name it as person. Okay, and let me define a few values. I'm going to name it as private. I already said that all the instance variables should be wrapper classes. And boolean, I'm going to say um, if he um, if he manage or not. And I'm going to right click control. I'm going to say Control Shift S for the resources. I'm going to select get as and ZS. Yeah, I'm going to say Control Shift S, and select get as and ZS. The operation is not applicable to the current selection. Select a field which is not declared as a type of variable or type that declares such field. Okay, we need to make a selection, and then we need to say uh, Control Shift S. I'm going to say Alt Shift S and say generate get as and ZS. First of all, we need to save, then right click on it, select source, get as and ZS. Um, understood the problem. Here, if you look at the person class, here we have the main class, main method. So that's the reason. So I'm going to remove the main method. Okay. Then I will say Shift S, Alt Shift S, generate get as and ZS for all. Um, for the bean properties, only setters are required, not getters. So let's select only setters. Select it. I'm going to say generate. Okay, so it has generated setters. Okay, Control Shift S, and I also need uh, a method, display method. I'm going to say public void display, and I'm going to say sysout, and I'm going to say PID, and the salary. I'm going to say name, and I'm going to say manager. Um, Instead of display, we can also use toString. Right click on it, go to source, say generate toString, select all, generate. So you can see this is the toString. When you create an object for it and call it, it's automatically going to display the values. Okay, now we have as we are ready with the person bean. Um, Let me go to the bean configuration file. Here it is. Let me click on it, and I'm going to go to beans, select new bean. What's my ID? Let me give it as B. ID or name, anything is fine. And my bean class name. Add Control Shift. These are properties. And for the manager, I'm going to say false. And let me add another property name. Name is, that's my name. And payroll ID is 10. and country. The last one is salary. The salary is 10,000. I'm going to say 9,000. That is double. I'm going to finish. Oh, and the scope, default scope is the singleton. Let me select it. Take Control S and go to source. You can see the bean got created. There's a single bean. Let me create one more bean. Let me name it as B1 and the bean 2 as B2. This is my bean 2 and this is also singleton. I'm going to say manager. Yeah, it's true. His name is A.S.I.F and the ID is 9 and his salary is 7. Okay. So I got the two beans, B1 and B2. So let me save it and go to um, app.java. I'm going to say new uh, default vegetable control space reader control assign. I'm going to name it as container and new of XML bean reader. I'm going to give it container inside it. I'm going to name it as reader um, load bean definitions. I'm going to use string location. String location is string dot xml. This is my Spring XML location. Then I'm going to call container.getBean. GetBean method. I'm going to use the fourth option because here I can mention directly create the object for the class whichever class you want. If not, it's going to create an object. The name of the bean is v1 and the required type I'm going to say person.class. So here it's going to create the bean. Okay, control one assign. That is a person one. Yeah. So I've created an object for the bean one. In the same way, if you really want to create the object, you can say bean two. And let me place it there. The person class. So our first topic is about. So we can directly check it. Simply you can display. You can call this person, or you can also directly use toString. So both are same. You can use any of them. Here it's going to call toString. Here it's going to call the method display method. Both are same. Both are going to return the same thing. Let me run Alt Shift X J. You can see the value 9,000 as if here the same 9,000 same thing. This for the this is from toString. This is from the display method. So both are written the same methods. Now this is not our topic. So our topic is about the first topic is about old version of Spring value tag instead of value attribute. Okay. So let me go to the spring.xml. Here you can see the value. We're giving the value as an attribute. Okay, attribute to the property. We're not defining the value as a tag inside the property. It's an attribute for the property. So in the old versions, we used to have this way. So they used to create an tag inside the property with a name. You can say Control Shift and select the value. Oh, we got the value inside it. They used to give the value. In the same way, let me remove this value and create value attribute, a value tag, and I'm going to give it as um, here I'm going to give the value. Control Shift, Control F. So you can see here. Let me delete this attribute. Control space. Select. Let me select value tag, and inside it, let me give the value. Again, let me remove this thing. Control space. Let me select value, and the salary is 10,000. Salary is 10,000 D. Control S, Control A, Control Shift F to format. So this is my bean one. You can look at how big my code is. It's too big, right? It's too big. The more the properties are, more the size. More the size, more the time it takes. More the time it takes. Yes, see. Uh, so if you look at the property, so this is how they used to code in the older versions of the Spring. They used to have the value as an tag inside the property instead of attribute. So that's how it's going to be. So let's run it. Let's check whether this thing is working or not. I'm going to say Control Alt Shift X. I'm going to select J. You can see it's running. Okay, we're getting the values, but this is not a good practice. If we are using the latest version, it's always good practice to use value as an attribute instead of value as an tag inside the property. Okay, that's our first the topic, and let's now go to the getBean. I'm going to change the Control Z. Control S. Now routed back the changes. Uh, I've changed modified the value as an attribute. Now let me close this and close this person. Let me go to the main method app.java. Um, we're going to say that we are going to make use of different method. Now, currently we have been using get method. Let me remove this. We have been creating the get method by using the container dot get bean. So you can see string name So it's going to create return the object. So we have been using string name and the it's going to return the required type. So if you make use of person.class, it's going to return the person object. So that way we have been using this overloaded methods. But if you look at the first one, bean.getClassT, let me select it. It's asking bean. So my bean is B1. B1, right? Control S, Control 1. So here we need to place, what we need to place? Class required type. So I'm going to say required type. So I'm going to say person dot class. Control 1, enter. Control 1, enter. So it's going to return the bean. It's going to return the bean object, bean class object. So now with it, we are going to call. So let me call. So if you look at this thing, as we have the two beans, let me go to configuration file. You can look at. You can see two beans. We have two beans. So if you say get bean of the class, so which bean it's going to call? Is it going to call to both the beans? Let's check it. I'm going to run and say I'm going to run as application. Oh, we got some issue. No qualified bean of the type available. Expected single matching bean, but found two. It's expecting single bean, but it found two beans. One is B1, other one is B2. So so we need to make use of this overloaded method getBean of getBean of class of required type if we have only one bean. So let me say that I have only one bean. Let me remove this bean, save it, go to app.java, and let me use the first overloaded method. I'm going to say person dot class. So if it's a person dot class, I'm going to say control 1 assign it a person, enter, call person dot display, or I can make use of this thing. I'm going to say I'm going to call the toString. Let me run as Java application. You can see this from the toDisplay, from the display method, this from the toString. So you can say that if you have only one bean, then definitely this overloaded method is going to be very much useful. But for now, if you have more than two, it's not recommended. Okay, so let me report back the changes we have discussed about the getBean. Now, the other important topic, other and the most important, we're going to talk about other container. It's an application context. It's also an interface. Okay, till now we have been using default listable bean factory. This is a stupid way of creating the container. So let's go to the um, so this bean factory, creating the container with the help of bean factory, the stupid way of creating the container. So now we are going to make use of the application context. So what is the application context? Let me go to Google Chrome, search for the Spring API. Let me select classes, Control F. I'm going to say bean factory. All these are abstract. No, no, no. Yeah, this is the one. You can see it's italic, which means it's interface. Let me click it. So till now we have been using the bean factory interface, and it's from the package or.springframework.beans, beans.factory. It's from this package, beans package, and we have been making use of um, and we have been making use of where is that default listable. Let me select it. Let me select default. Yeah. Till now we have been making use of default listable bean factory. Okay, this is a stupid way of creating it. So let me select the class application context. So you can see it here. This is the application context. This is this sub interface directly coming from the bean. So internally it's making use of bean factory. Okay, bean factory interface. So it's a sub interface of this bean factory. So let's click on it. So this application context is also an interface just like bean factory, but it's from the bean factory. So what are the implementing classes? Yeah, these two are very much important. The class path XML application context and file system application context. And the other and the most important one is uh, yes, this one, annotation config application context and annotation config web application context. So these things are very much important. So we're going to discuss about first of all we're going to discuss about the class path XML application, then file system application context. Okay, class path XML application. So class path application context is in class. Okay, so now let's make use of this application context. Directly copy it, go. So this is my main class, and if you go to spring.xml, these are the two beans what I have. Okay, now to remove unused import classes by using Ctrl Shift O. Ctrl Shift O. It's going to remove unused packages. So now let me say new of class path XML application context. So inside it, I'm going to give the control space application context. Okay. So I'm going to give location of Spring Bean configuration file. So control 1, enter. So it's so you can see it's creating the object for the class path application context. This is not a good practice. We should always make use of the interface. I'm going to name this as container. We should always return the interface. import. This is how we need to make use of it. Okay, what is the warning it is showing? The value of the local variable container is not used. Okay, fine. So warning, let me ignore it. Let me call the container dot getBean. Okay, getBean. Okay, I'm going to name of the bean is B1, and my bean class name is control1 assign. I'm going to name it as person. So let me call the person dot display. Okay, person dot display. So now it's going to create the container object. It's going to read this thing .xml using a parser. Then it's going to when we call the getBean, it's going to create an object. Okay, before that, before that, um, before we make use of this thing, as we already know that when we make use of the um, default listable bean factory, when we call the container.getBean, only then for the scope is equal to only when the scope is singleton, it's going to create an object. But now let's check the behavior of the application context. Control Shift X J. Let me open the console. Mhm. If you look at my spring.xml, here both my scopes for both the beans are singleton, and I just created the container. Okay, so let me look at the console. You can see here it's creating the instance of the B1. Okay, so it's creating the object. Next, again, you can see it's creating the instance of the B2. So how can this happen without calling the getBean object? It's automatically creating the instance of the bean, creating the object. Okay, let me verify through debug tool. I'm going to place my pointer here, breakpoint here. Run as a debug. So it's opening in the debug perspective. Now I'm going to wait for my bug. Yeah, this bug. This is the bug. I'm going to say debug as Java application. Okay, it's going to switch to debug perspective. I'm going to say okay. So right now I've placed my breakpoint here. So it has executed the top part. Now it is pointing at this location. And let me click step over. You can see it came out of it. Let me click. Let me. Oh, you can see few things are happening. I don't know what exactly happened in the background. Say finish creating instance of these things. It has created an object. So let me expand this. Hmm. hmm. So So you can see here, you can see the ID is creating an object. So object ID is equal to 546 and other object is 516. So this for the bean, um, this for the bean 1 and this is for the bean 2, this for the bean 2. Okay, so let's, so if it has created the object here itself when we call the class path XML application, so what's going to happen when we call the get method? Is it really is it going to create it again? So let's see, let's check it. I'm going to say container dot get bean, select the first option and my bean is b1. I'm going to say person. So let me come out of, let me terminate this debug mode, control 1. So this for the bean 1 and this for the bean 2. So for the two beans I'm calling bean 1, this for the bean 1 and this for the bean 2. So as a scope is singleton and at this step the objects are already creating for the bean 1 and bean 2. So what's going to happen when we call the get bean method? Let's check it. So what happened? Okay, to check it, okay, and let me debug as application Java application. So it's going to come here. So you're not able to see the breakpoint because I have warning here. Okay, let me click F6. F6 for the step in, for the step over. Let me click this. So you can see, slowly you will see the logs. Debug is very slow here. So bear with me. So at this point of time, it has already created an object. Okay, it has created an object. So let's see what's going to happen when we call the get method. Again, step over. Uh, you can see person object with the finite file. At the get pane, you can see the person it's already created in the finite file. Let me run this second one. Step over. The person 2 is created with the ID 523. So at the background, what's going to happen? You can see it's retrieving the objects creating from the cache. Instead of creating it again, it's going to retrieve the values from the cache and use those objects. Okay. So this is going to happen. So let's change the scope. Scope as prototype. You can simply say control space, enter, control space, enter, application. I already have the toggle point here, and I can say run as debug as Java application. Oh, I don't have the toggle point here. Let me stop and place the toggle point here. I'm going to say debug as Java application. Yeah, so it has come here. So right now it's going to come here and check for the singleton and check for the scope. And scope is prototype. So it's not going to create any kind of objects. So for the prototype scope, when the scope is prototype, here it's not going to create any objects. When you call the getBean method, only then it's going to create an object. So let's check it. I'm going to say step over. Let's wait. It's little slow. Yeah, you can see it has executed this thing, and you can go to console and check. So it has not created any instance of the bean1 or bean2. You can check it here. And also, so let me step over. Now it's going to create the instance of the b1. So it's going to say finishing the creating the instance of b1. So you can see the object 577, the person. Let me step over one more time. So now it has created the instance of b2. So if the scope is prototype, it's going to create the object only when we call the getBean method. If the scope is singleton, it's going to create the object before itself when we create a container. And later point in time, when you call the getBean method, so it's going to check whether it has the object created or not. If it is created, then it's going to utilize it. Okay, so that's the thing. Now